We have a saying here at Record Eraser that goes like this: what's better than going to court? Which I had to do for 35 years, morning and afternoon. And the correct answer is absolutely nothing is worse than going to court. But yesterday I took off for Northampton County. I was scheduled for an over 70 expungement for a client. And so these are not usually opposed. In fact, I had called the district attorney who had reviewed the law and the criminal record with me and agreed that my client didn't need to show up and that he was not opposed to the granting of the expungement order. They open the doors at 8:30, and then the people walk into a big round rotunda. And by people, I mean defendants, their wives, their girlfriends, their children, attorneys, probation officers. Everybody just filters into the courtroom, but you have to start this corkscrew to get through security. And the people that are coming in, that are at the back of the line, have to walk through the line, a line or two, to get to the internal part, which is where all these people have ended up trying to unwind. I don't know if that makes any sense or not, but I'll draw you a picture. Anyway, all right, so I'm in court at 8:45. It says court's supposed to start at 9, but it's clear they've started at 8:30. I'm not late, I'm not in trouble, but they have about 40 or 50 cases they want to go through. So I sit nicely in court like I have for 100 years. And finally, after an hour and a half, I get a chance to go up because apparently they have rules about clearing all the prisoners and the county workers and the probation officers, get rid of their cases first, which I understand. Finally, it's just me, and I go up and say good morning to the judge. And the judge said, "Where's your client?" And I said, well, I had spoken to the district attorney, and he had told me to tell my client he doesn't have to be there because he doesn't have any questions and he's not opposed to the petition. And so then the judge reminded me, well, it's the judge who gets to say whether your client needs to show up or not. And so I apologized because I didn't think there was any issue. I think one of the interesting things is that the rules about an over 70 expungement are that if you're over 70 years of age and then looking back, if you have been off of any kind of prosecution, supervision, or parole or probation, if there hasn't been anything for 10 years, meaning like when you're 60 or earlier, that you're eligible for an over 70 expungement. The judge, she had done enough research to notice that my client had gotten into trouble after the case we were there for within 10 years after that. And the way she was reading the statute, she thought that if he got into trouble within 10 years of when he first got into trouble, that he would not be able to file that expungement. And I respectfully said, I don't think that's the statute or that's the way to interpret it. And she said that she was going to go back and reread it. And so we left without a signed expungement petition, but with an agreement that if she wanted a hearing, I would come back with my client, or else she could sign it, or else she could deny it. I don't have any doubt at all that it's 10 years prior to turning 70. And I think that for a couple of reasons. There's people that commit crimes when they're 65, and if they get 7 years of supervision, then they're 72 years old. Did I say 55 or 65? The point is that once you're over 70, and you've been off of supervision, that's where the 10 years starts. And so if you commit a crime when you're 65 and you get 7 years probation and you're on supervision until you're 72, well, then 10 years starts. And if you turn 82, you're eligible for an over 70 expungement petition because you have cleared that 10-year period after you off supervision. The other way of looking at it is, I think my point of view makes sense because many people make mistakes when they're 20, 25, 30 years old. And if you had to go 10 years without committing a crime in order to be eligible for an expungement 40 years from when you're 30, with absolutely no crimes broken in between the 40 years, that wouldn't make any sense at all. It doesn't make any sense. People that are 70 are tired And the statute's written that if you're 70 and you've been off of supervision, parole, or probation for over 10 years, then you're eligible for the expungement. So that, I thought, that's the recap of my morning. Now here's another thing that I found out. Northampton County has 3,991 cases added to the criminal docket every year. Actually, that it has basically 4,000 convictions coming out of there every year. So if you go back 10 years, I'm not talking about expungements anymore, I'm saying that's 40,000 cases that Northampton County has given people convictions for over the past 10 years. If you want to go to the past 20, it's probably 80,000 cases. Every one of those cases is disempowering somebody and inhibiting their employment, their education, their housing. So that's all I got. Thank you.